Motoring 2010 on TSN is brought to you by Quaker State, real durable oil, and Michelin, a better way forward.
Dennis DeRose is the man in charge of DeRose Automotive Consultants, a sort of Canadian version of J.D. Power. And recently, Dennis shared some information with us that really didn't surprise me. Despite governments regulating car companies to build more fuel-efficient vehicles, hybrids, and electrics, and despite the chicken little rantings of people like David Suzuki and Al Gore, North American consumers are now buying less fuel-efficient vehicles. Now, these are Canadian figures, and as you can see, in April of 2010, the big vehicles certainly had this surge. And if you go year to date, the trend continues. Now, what does it mean? Well, it means you can regulate the car companies to build these vehicles, but you can't tell consumers what to buy. You know that old saying, build it and they will come? Well, maybe in the movies. Now, I know what you're thinking. I got out of bed on the wrong side. Well, not really. I just think it's a way of figuring out why we're now having a revival with the muscle cars, the Dodge Challenger and Charger, the Chevy Camaro, and now this week we're going to check out the original pony car, the 2011 version of the Ford Mustang.
Out at the Ford Pavilion, there's a daydream corner called Mustang.
It's a remarkable success story, this car.
This is the car that dreams are made of.
This is really just an evolution of the Mustang, and it's significant news for us is we're debuting all new powertrains in the 2011 Mustang. We've got a brand new 3.7-liter V6 that delivers the combination of 305 horsepower and 31 miles per gallon for the customer. We have a brand new V8, a 5-liter. The 5-liter is back. This new 5-liter delivers 412 horsepower to the customer. If you recall the old 5-liter, which last was in the 1995 Mustang, that was 215 horsepower. So we have almost a 200 horsepower improvement from the old 5-liter to the new 5-liter.
You know, I don't know about you, but when I hear about a success story, I like to know how it began. Well, for the Mustang, it began in the early 60s. A guy named Don Frey, he was the chief engineer at Ford. He has since passed away, but he was sitting around with a bunch of other engineers, 30s, 40 years old, thinking about building a small, sporty car. Well, they pitched the idea to Henry Ford II, but he still hadn't gotten over a car called the Edsel. But finally, he found some money, and he said, you build the Mustang, but if it's a failure, it's your ass. Well, in 1964, they hoped to sell about 87,000 Mustangs. They sold 400,000. And today, in North America, there are 9 million Mustangs running around.
Every time I went to the beach with Albert, some big muscle guy was always kicking sand in his face. It made me so mad.
Albert's a Mustanger now. He bought a beautiful Mustang convertible.
I was born the week the Mustang was on the road. I am exactly the same age as the Mustang.
Put a few kicks in your life. Take a Mustang out for a little road work. Mustang, Mustang, Mustang.
At first I was surprised because they changed the model in 010 and they say we have a brand new model in 011. Engine-wise, that's where the secret is this year. There's somebody named GM who had a Camaro, which was basically beating the V6 out of Ford, so they brought a better V6.
And it's a very important product for Ford. There's always the enthusiasts and the customers that love this product. So what we try to do, and we've always done, is listening to them and listen to what they want, what they need. And like, for example, for this year, we brought new engines and the new transmissions, which was what they were expecting.
It's nice to see that in very short order, Ford has risen to the occasion to create something with a lot more power and a lot more agility and a lot more fun than the previous car, which is only a year old.
It's a car you still love to manhandle. And I think that's the beauty about Mustang. If it was too refined, it wouldn't be a Mustang anymore. when you have to shift the V8, it's not like a BMW or a German car, which is very smooth, you have to really put it there, and it's part of the fun. I wouldn't like it to be like a German car. It's an American car. And of course, you can hear behind the noise of a V8, which is unique to Mustang. So all in all, they've made a great job.
Anyhow, we're gonna go straight down here with traction control on and see what it does.
Let's go for it.
Okay. Forgot to push the start button on the timer.
What do you think?
It was good. I mean, it's got a good launch off the line. It's actually easier to launch this one off the line than it is in the Shelby, because the Shelby, the traction control comes in right away because it's supercharged, so you got a lot of low-end power, and it's hard to get a good start without the traction control killing it. But this one launches off good, easy to shift in a second, and works like it's supposed to.
These cars don't capture the public's attention the way hybrids do or electrics do. It may not be politically correct in some circles, but the fact remains that we're going to have internal combustion cars around for a long time.
And it would be really sad to see those cars go off the road, because that's the whole point where you buy a car. It's passion, and this is passion at the purest form.
There's two things about growing old. One, you can't remember anything, and the second, more later on Kenzie's Corner.
Lexus billing as the world's first dedicated luxury hybrid. On this edition of Test Drive, the HS250h. So, the question is obvious. Does the HS250 live up to its dedicated luxury hybrid billing? The answer in a word is no. You see, while the HS does differ from the likes of the RX and GS in that there is no gasoline-only counterpart, this car is not unique. It borrows its body from the European Toyota Avensis. The starting point is then wrapped in a rather Corolla-like body with a Ford Fusion grille slapped on the nose. If you go with the ultra premium model of the HS, you get a loaded vehicle. To begin with, heated and cooled perforated leather seats, the remote touch system, considering it controls just about everything, it is remarkably intuitive. Great Mark Levinson sound system, very good nav system, and one of the clearest backup cameras I've encountered. There were, however, two things I didn't care for. First of all, this spindly little gear shift, it doesn't do anything for me. And the layout? Well, I think my granny would enjoy it. When it comes to the hybrid powertrain, it's more of the copy and paste philosophy. It is essentially the same as the Toyota Camry Hybrid's powertrain. This means a 2.4-litre engine that delivers 147 horsepower and 138 pound-feet of torque. The electric side, which gets its power from a 244.8-volt battery, chips in with another 141 horsepower. When all is said and the ponies produced, the HS250 puts out a net system output of 187 horsepower. What I didn't expect from this car is the amount of noise you get. We'll start with a run to 100k. Typical CVT, it pegs the engine at red line and there it stays, and in this case 9.8 seconds to get up to 100. Once you're there, more wind noise and more tyre noise than I expected, and as you slow down you hear the electric motor. The HS250h rides on McPherson struts up front and double wishbones in the back. For the most part, the suspension is tuned to deliver a Lexus-like ride. This means that when pushed to the limit, there is some body roll and understeer is never too far away. The good news is that it takes quite a lot of work to provoke the electronic stability and traction control system into action. The steering, which is electrically assisted, follows this lead. At slow speeds there's too much assist. At higher speeds it does firm up, but never to the point where it says sports car. Pity.
The rear environment of the HS is somewhat cramped, especially if the driver is on the taller side. And by taller, I only mean 6 feet. It really does limit the amount of legroom. There is, however, decent headroom. As for the trunk, well, because the main battery sits between the back seat and the trunk, there's no ski pass-through, and when you open it, you'll find just about 12 cubic feet of cargo space.
The HS follows the hybrid norm in that it uses regenerative braking to recharge the main battery. This means that the first level of braking is done electrically. If the driver hammers the brake pedal, a hydraulic system complete with anti-lock steps to the fore. For the most part, it is very hybrid-like. The pedal is mushy underfoot, which makes it difficult to modulate. The saving grace is that the brakes do deliver effective stopping power. The good news is that this Lexus HS250h does come with a Lexus-like interior. The downside, it's sluggish, it's noisy, it's got more than a passing resemblance to the Toyota Corolla in spite of the body kit, and if you go with the ultra premium model, it'll set you back about $50,000. Well, you know, Lexus do make some very nice cars. This thing, unfortunately, it's not one of them.
Make sure you check out the motoring website at motoringtv.com. You can watch any program you may have missed. In fact, how about a trip down memory lane and see what we were driving as far back as 1988. Check out our blog, our photo gallery, and much more. It's all there at motoringtv.com.
The Can-Am Spyder Roadster is truly the ultimate fun machine. It is the perfect blend of the wind-in-your-face experience of a motorcycle combined with many of the safety elements found on today's sports cars. We make both a sport model and we make a touring model. It brings to the motorcycle market traction control, ABS, a vehicle stability system, and really allows people to get on and go and just have a lot of fun, and it's really cool to ride. Really, the Spyder is for anybody who might feel a little bit uncertain in terms of balance, might want an option where they don't have to worry about leaning into corners, likes the added stability of the three-wheel architecture. Really, it's for anybody who just wants to enjoy the open road with a little more peace of mind.
Would a motorcycle person really want to drive a three-wheeler?
Well, we would certainly invite them to. I mean, the traditional trikes have been on the market for a long, long, long time. You know, we've found that the Y architecture that we've implemented with the Spyder is much more stable in its design. So I think you'll see a lot of people that will try it, adopt it, and actually fall in love with it. Both vehicles are equipped with a 990 V-twin Rotax engine. On the sport model, it produces 106 horsepower, recalibrated to 100 horsepower on the touring model. Both are available in 5 speeds with reverse. We have both manual transmissions as well as sequential electronic shifts, so we really got something for everybody. In most provinces, a motorcycle license is required. However, some provinces have made a designation where you can actually do the road test on the Spyder and you would have what's called an M-restricted license, restricted to 3 wheels. Some guy came out today and he thought he knew a lot about mechanics, was tinkering under the hood, something about playing with traction control, asking if we could deactivate it, and all the stability system. Of course, we kind of shooed him away and said, no, go play with somebody else's car. I think Bill Gardiner, something like that.
As we all know, our man in the Quaker State Garage, Bill Gardiner, loves his pickup trucks, but he has equal passion for NASCAR and muscle cars, and you can bet he's worked on a few Mustangs. Now check out this video. We came across a 1979 Mustang II. I'm thinking a dark day for Mustang. What do you think, Bill?
You know, Brad, the 70s were a nightmare for just about everybody in the automotive industry. Ford with the Mustang and everybody else was in the same boat because of the energy crisis. They had to detune those engines, slide in smaller engines in order to meet the fuel economy requirements. And back then we still had carburetors and no electronic engine controls, so it was a nightmare for engineers. And that was probably, you know, the mid 70s was the low point for Mustang. But when you've been in production as long as the Mustang has, you can't hit home runs every time up to the plate. And you know what? I love the current Mustang, and what they've done with that model in the last 8 or 10 model years is amazing. I mean, think about it. When GM quit making the Camaro and Firebird, they just handed the pony car business to Ford, and Ford ran with it like crazy. And now all they've had to do is up the horsepower this year to compete with the Camaro and the Challenger. They've done that with that new 5-liter double overhead cam engine. They're really on the money. Anyhow, we're down here at Ontario Place for a 4-day event with the guys from Bombardier Recreational Products and their Can-Am motorcycle division. This is the Spyder model, and this 3-wheel motorcycle is like no other motorcycle in the industry. And in the eyes of the law, this is seen as a motorcycle. You need a motorcycle license to operate it here in Ontario, and I'm sure probably in other jurisdictions as well. We just pulled one of the side covers off the Can-Am machine here. You can see a little glimpse of the 998cc liquid-cooled V-twin that's built by Rotax for this Can-Am machine. And Rotax just built their 7 millionth engine. They're all built in Austria. It's a double overhead cam, 4-valve per cylinder, 998cc V-twin. Makes a lot of torque, monster power, pulls away with a lot of authority. It's really got the power, and nice drivability as well. And you know what? This machine is not going to appeal to everybody, but they're not trying to sell it to everybody in the motorcycle business. They're going to sell it to people who want that extra confidence of all the safety features built into this machine. It's got traction control, it's got stability control, it's got anti-lock brakes with electronic brake proportioning, a single brake pedal operated by your right foot, and you can hammer those brakes as hard as you want, and the ABS will automatically keep that vehicle stable and braking properly. It's also got electronic stability control and roll mitigation, so if you inadvertently, get into a corner too hard or lean the wrong way and actually you're able to lift a wheel, it'll back out of the throttle and apply brakes to settle the machine down. And the machine's inherently stable by having 2 front wheels, and the stance that it has inherent stability. So even if you do something really stupid, you really can't get this thing out of shape. And you know what? For people, let's say older couples that rode motorcycles and they want to go touring 2-up on a machine, this will be an ideal machine, because no matter what that person on the back does when you're riding 2-up, this machine is not going to be adversely affected the way a regular motorcycle would be. Oh, and you can tow a trailer too, so maybe they can sign me up in a few years. Till next week, I'm Bill Gardiner for Motoring 2010.
It's kind of scary when you have some guy going into the corner with you, because you know there's going to be a crash. So you have to kind of back out there. But yeah, sometimes it can be scary if you know you're going to be in trouble.
It just helps everybody, because when they go out on the road, they're all going to be out on the road with us someday. And so what we want to do is, we don't want them to be racers on the road, obviously, but we want them to have a better understanding of what they're doing when they're driving a car.
Closed captioning of Motoring 2010 is brought to you by the most fuel-efficient crossover on the highway, the all-new Chevy Equinox.
We've been doing this show now for, what, Brad? 23 years. And the one thing that's always a bit weird for me is I got people coming up to me who don't look that much younger than me saying, "I've been watching you since I was a kid." Ooh, that really hurts. But we know our demographic is largely male and it's largely young, but there's some of you out there who've probably been watching us for all of those 23 years. And one thing that I kind of want you to think about a little bit, remember how stupid you were when you started watching the show. Not that you've learned that much from watching us, or maybe you have, but you were young, you were aggressive, you probably drove a bit faster than you should. The chances are now you've got kids of your own, like I do, 4 of them. They've all managed to make the age of 22 so far, no criminal records, at least not that I know of. But I want you to think about this when you start putting your kids into cars. Remember how stupid you were when you were driving. Well, kids today, they can still be just as stupid. So when you're putting them in a car, think about it for a little bit. We got a situation going on at the office now. One of our people was peripherally involved with a tragedy that involved a young kid driving, and 2 elderly people were killed in the crash. I had a crash in my family before I was born. The repercussions continue to this day, 65 years later. So if you're putting your kid in a car, do something like what I did. Find a 65 horsepower diesel Volkswagen. Don't put them into a 300 horsepower souped up sports car with low profile tires that get no grip in the rain. And for heaven's sake, don't get them into a 180 horsepower crotch rocket motorcycle. Please have a little respect for your own kids and for the rest of us. I'm Jim Kenzie.
Okay, so the 2011 Ford Mustang is in the starting gate. The field is complete and the race is about to begin as Ford takes on Dodge and Chevrolet. And you know what they say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Nobody was complaining about the old Mustang, but believe me, Ford had no option but to keep up with the Joneses. And this is the best Mustang. It's a comfortable, and if I can say it, an easy car to drive. Now, the question is, do you go with the V8 or the V6? Well, if money's no problem, you go with the V8. The V6, more than adequate power, good fuel mileage. But then again, if you're buying a muscle car, is fuel mileage really in the equation? I don't think so. One suggestion though, if you're gonna go with the 5-liter V8 and you wanna do the full Monty, you ain't gonna do it on our streets and our highways. Take it to the track like we did. Only then will you appreciate what the engineers have done to this car and any other performance vehicle. Before we go, a reminder, check out our new and improved website. Along with the Motoring Gang, we've got some of this country's top automotive journalists giving their opinion on the good, the bad, and the ugly of the automotive industry. That's it for now. We'll see you next time as we continue to bring you more stories about cars and the people who drive them.
We wanted to take the same approach to this segment, to the subcompact segment with the Mazda 2 that we did with the Mazda 3 in the compact segment, for example. So it was for us a matter of applying the same formula that we always do, but if you can do it on a smaller and lighter car to start with, that's always a good place to start.
Motoring 2010 on TSN has been brought to you by Quaker State, real durable oil, and Michelin, a better way forward.